And mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
You know, but once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Yo. I am back again. Another episode of Chill Will Radio. This is episode 5. Man. Thank you for everyone that is tuning in. Thank you for everyone that will tune in later on. And thank you for even those who haven't tuned in yet, because you will catch on eventually at some point in your lifetime. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in, man. As people start populating, coming into the show and listening, please let me know that you're there listening to it. Please let me know that you're there listening to it. Say hi in the chat box, chat, live, that thing. You know what I'm talking about. Just let me know that you're present, man. I'm glad to be here. Very, very glad to be here, man. I've had what kind of week did I have? Interesting. It wasn't really too much or whatever. One of the things that I have to understand this week, is to really take my own advice. And that's the hardest thing in the world, for me, especially because as a therapist and with a lot of things that I do, it's hard to take your own advice, right? It's hard to, I tell my patients to do certain things, but when it comes to my own life, when it comes to my own things, I don't. And the only reason why I say that is I've always, and this is kind of a problem, but recently, especially this week, I have a huge problem with sleeping. And I think there was one point in the week where I literally stayed up probably like a good 22 hours, like with no sleep. Wow. And it's been like that all week. And I always tell myself, and Keith, shout out to Keith is the one that kind of put this in my head. And if you're listening, Keith, please let me know if I say this wrong, but Keith told me that the average lifespan is about, if we take the average lifespan, which is probably about 60 to 70 years, and if you sleep, the average lifespan, that extra words in the background, that's the music, my bad. But the average lifespan is about 60 to 70 years, and if you sleep the normal amount of time that you're supposed to sleep, which is about 8 hours a day, what you're going to be losing is 25 years of your life just off of sleeping. And I'm just trying to get this music right, y'all. Mind me. Don't pay me no attention. There we go. But yeah, if the average lifespan is 60 years and we sleep 8 hours per day, within those 60 years, we're going to be losing 25 years of our life. That's spooked the hell out of me because it's like, within those 25 years, what could I actually accomplish? So I'm up doing stuff, writing things down. I've been in a very manic stage lately, especially this week. And it's been crazy because a lot of my patients, especially when I do group therapy, they're always telling me like, hey, I have problems sleeping. I'm just trying to get to sleep and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, in the back of my head, it's like, I ain't sleeping either. I'm not sleeping at all. And I had to realize that I myself need to try to take my own advice when it comes to that, because I always tell patients, hey, sometimes you just need to stop everything what you're doing and try to just sit in that darkness to try to see if your body's going to go to sleep. Try to tire your body out. And I've been giving myself excuses as to why I need to be up. If I'm not sleeping, I'm not going to be able to prepare for this show. if I'm sleeping, I'm not going to be able to prepare for the show. If I'm sleeping, I'm not going to be able to work on the other things that I need to work on. And I got to understand that it's okay. Because I'm a very impatient person when it comes to a lot of things, but sometimes we have to just give our body that time, because if we don't make time for our body is going to make time for us, like, period. And there's a lot of things in my life a lot of goals that I have in my life that I actually, want to work on and things like that. But because throughout this week I kind of been in like this very little manic stage or whatever, my brain has been all over the place. I'm thinking about one thing, thinking about this thing, back to back, going all the way. And I always tell my patients, certain things, and I guess this is a segue into the self-care piece, because for the self-care piece, what I was going to speak about is journaling and writing things down. And I tell my patients a lot, when you're a very anxious individual and when you have a lot of these things going on in your head, one of the most beneficial things you can do is to write it down. The reason why writing down some of your thoughts is so important is because now you're actually able to see your thought. Now you're actually able to see what you're actually thinking about. It's like we know it, but now I can actually see it. Okay, this is what I'm thinking about. So that allows us to kind of get it out of our head. And especially when it comes to certain things that we need to do, right? So like myself, I have a lot of goals that I feel as if I need to take care of now. Like, if I don't take care of those goals right now, I'm not going to ever take care of them. I'm going to feel worthless. I'm going to feel helpless. Like, I'm going to just feel bad. And I don't know why, but that's just the type of person I am. So, but I don't write anything down. So that goes back into me taking my own advice, right? So I need to start journaling. I need to start writing things down. And it doesn't have to be I'm writing like how I'm feeling throughout the whole day or whatever. It's just like, no, I need to write certain goals down. I need to sort out and to prioritize. That's the biggest thing. I need to prioritize everything that I have going on in my world, because I have no planner. I'm extremely busy. I'm busy all day, every day. I've always been a very extremely busy person, but I don't have a planner. I've never been an individual to really plan things. Everything is in my head. But I'm going to get to a certain point in my life to where I won't be able to just remember stuff like that. Or it just may be too many things going on. So when it comes to journaling and the self-care piece that I'm talking about for myself, it's very important that I need to start to practice that. Obviously, when you're trying to do something new, you're trying to implement a something new into your life, it's going to be hard at the beginning. So I'm going to take this personal challenge to myself and just, like I said, write things down. Whether it's any ideas that I have, whether it's any goals that I have, whether it's how I'm feeling, right? If you're a very anxious person, this is something I firmly believe in. If you're a very anxious person, one of the things that you can do to assist with your anxiety is write what's the right word? A worry journal. There we go. I just made that up, but write a worry journal, right? And what I mean by that is when you're feeling anxious, because a lot of the times when we deal with anxiety, we have irrational anxiety and rational anxiety. So a lot of those irrational things, like, terrorists is going to bomb up, the school or the hospital that I'm at, some things like that. And write them down. Write them down that day and then look at them at the end of the week. So you can see how ridiculous, those certain thoughts were. That's the anxiety portion of it. If you deal with a lot of things that are going on in your head and you don't know how to prioritize them, write them down. And that's something that I'm going to start doing. If you're feeling a certain way, obviously you can write things down. Write down your day. Write down how your day was at the end of the day. That can also help as well. So the journaling piece is something I need to just implement, and I'm thoroughly going to do that. So next show, I'm going to open up and tell you guys, how I've been doing it, how it's been going so far, because I honestly think it's going to be hard because I'll be forgetting to write stuff down. But, the journey, the check-in and the check-in and the segue and the self-care piece kind of blended in together. But all in all, like I said, I need to take my own advice. What else happened for me during the week? Oh, another thing, yo. Please, this is just for people who ask. A lot of us, myself, we when it comes to a lot of our friends, we are that therapist for a lot of our friends. We're that therapist for a lot of our friends, and one of the things that's so important that people understand, and the reason why I'm saying this is because this happened earlier in the week when a friend hit me up about a situation. Please don't get mad at the advice that you don't hear. Right? Don't get mad at the advice that you don't hear. Don't assume that I'm going to take your side. Because I had a but a friend hit me up and asked me about a situation with a chick. And I'm the type of friend, like, yo, if you wrong, you wrong. I'm going to call a spade a spade. Like, if you an asshole, then that's just what it is. He told me about how I'm trying to figure out how to not put his business out there like that without putting his business out there like that. He just had a situation with a girl, and he was just flat out wrong, right? He was just flat out wrong. He was trying to say, oh, no, she was doing this, and she treated me this way, and blah, 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 and all this extra stuff. And sometimes just as a friend giving that advice, you got to be completely honest. But on the other end, please do not get mad at the advice that you don't hear, because after I told him how wrong he actually was, he got pissed. Yo, you taking her side, and you my boy, and blah, blah, blah. You supposed to have my back. And it's like, yo, I love you, dog, but I would not be your boy if I didn't tell you the truth. So when we're asking other people for advice, don't get mad at the advice that you don't hear, because a lot of times it's what you're supposed to hear. And we shouldn't be opening up to people with an expectation of getting something in return anyway. Nah, we need to just open up for ourselves, so. But that was my week. What else went on for me this week? The sleeping part, taking my own advice. That's pretty much it. Ain't nothing too crazy happened throughout the week outside of me not getting no sleep. And that also, like I said, blended into the self-care piece, the journaling piece that I'm actually going to start in. So let me go into this chat room, chat box, chat live, all that stuff. Yeah, Keith, my man. Yeah, Keith is in there. It's Erica. Good morning. It's not good morning, but Erica, shout out to you. Good evening, wherever you're at. You might be somewhere where it actually is the morning. So good morning to you, sweetheart. Okay, so I'm going to call you after the show, D. Gomez, to actually ask you, how do you pronounce your name? But as always, man, good luck for actually being a part of the show and actually checking in, man. So thank you for actually coming in today. As the flyer stated, and we're going into the main piece of the actual show. Today, as the flyer stated, we're speaking with an individual who has MRKH, right? And this is interesting to me because this is a friend of mine, and I've known this individual for a few years now. And it's interesting that you never really know, what, a person is internally battling, right? Because to me, she's always, every time I seen her, she always had a smile on her face. She always treated me like I was fine. And it's crazy how sometimes we can just hide things. And I don't know if at that point she was good. I don't know if at that point she was where she's at right now. But anytime I came across this person, it was just all smiles. So when I found out about the MRKH thing and, she's going to get on and tell us what it's about, I was like, yo, I start to kind of feel like maybe I should have asked, maybe I should have been more of a friend. Maybe I should have asked her what was going on. Not to get into like her business or whatever, but maybe I should have pushed the issue a little bit more just to ask how it was going on, because a lot of times with a lot of our friends, we just say, hey, and bye. Granted, there are certain friends who may be closer than others, but this individual has always been around. She's a friend of a friend, and even when I'm with the individual that kind of introduced me to her, I've always asked about her, like, how she's doing, where she's at, woo. But I've never, even in doing this, I've never actually had a full sit down and actually spoke to her and had a real in-depth conversation with like, yo, how are you? So today we got Raven, right? Raven is the individual that is going to be speaking about MRKH, what it is, and how and why it's important. So MRKH is and I'm just going to give a quick little side note and why it's important that we actually speak about this. MRKH is not a mental health diagnosis. MRKH is a birth defect, and Raven is going to get into the actual nitty gritty of actually what it is. But I just want to say this back before we actually get started. MRKH is a birth defect, and a lot of the times when it comes to our physical illnesses, you know, these physical illness have a lot of psychological effects to them, right? Individuals who have cancer will probably suffer from depression. Individuals who have been recently diagnosed with HIV will probably begin to suffer with depression, will probably feel like, hey, I'm not worthy anymore, this happened, or my life is over. It's always important to understand that everything is connected. Everything is connected. Our environment is connected to our physical body is connected to our mind, and our mind is connected to our soul. Same thing, vice versa. If our soul is tainted, then our mind is going to be tainted. If our mind is tainted, then our body and what we take in is going to be tainted. And then the energy that we put out, that environment around us, that's going to be tainted as well. Everything is connected. And within this field, it's very seldom when medical professionals connect the clinical side of it, which is the mental health side of it. Because they all connect. They all are very important. Because when somebody gets hit with that news, they have XYZ, they may immediately begin to dive into a depression. And there may be some instances to where that individual may commit suicide. We never look at how these two are connected, but our whole body is. So just as we need to physically work out, we always need to take care of our mind. But just as we get some form of illness, some form of chronic disease, and we all know somebody with at least type of 1 chronic disease, right? We know somebody that may have cancer. We may know somebody that may have HIV. We may know some of these things. And a lot of what's going to happen is these people are going to try to find certain ways to cope with it, whether it's through isolating. Some people are going to become more anxious. Some people are going to find a substance to cope with. You know, there's a lot of individuals, especially a lot of my own personal patients, there's a lot of people who their substance abuse and, you know, their chemical dependency doesn't start up until later on in their life when something crazy happens. A lot of the time it's because I have this disease or I have that illness and my life is over now. So the only way I can be able to cope with it is to drink or to do whatever. So it's important that we understand how everything connects. And Raven, you there? Raven?
Yes, I'm here.
There you go, Raven. So I know that was kind of like a long intro or whatever, but
it was a very long intro, but it's all good.
But Raven, man, like I said earlier in the intro, this is crazy, and I thought about that like early on. This is actually, for the years that we've known each other, this is the very, very first time, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time that I'm aware of that me and you have actually like had a conversation without other friends being involved. All right? I might be wrong.
We've had a few, maybe not as you mean about this or just in general?
Just in general, like a lot, because a lot of my friends, I have a habit of diving into people's life. And I don't feel like I've actually like dived into your life, which is why it's kind of like.
Oh no! You haven't dived into my life. I mean, we've had a few.
Yeah.
Personal conversations, but yeah.
Okay, so.
We haven't really gotten too deep into,
but,
in personal talk and all that. But.
Yeah. But hey, it's better late than never, right?
Exactly.
But Raven, so. Brought you here. You know. First of all, thank you for actually coming onto the show. Thank you for actually coming onto the show. It's I really do appreciate it. One, you coming onto the show, and then two, you actually opening up about MRKH. So can you kind of let everybody know what MRKH is, and just your journey with it? Just tell us what it is, and how have you figured out all that.
definitely. I just want to say thank you, Willis, again for just having me on the show and just taking the time to really bring awareness. I love this platform that you have going on right here. I just told you before the show, but I just think it's really awesome, and I'm very proud of you, actually.
Aw, if I was white, my face would be red right now, but you know, I'm
I
very.
can't with you. I can't. But so, as you said, MRKH, it is a birth defect. It affects 1 in 5,000 women, and I am one out of the 5,000. So MRKH is Mayer-Rokitansky Hauser syndrome, Kuster-Hauser syndrome. It's a long name.
And those
it was
are the
named after the doctors.
Okay, those are the people who founded it, first diagnosed it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was named after the doctors who actually found the diagnosis. So with that, MRKH is basically let me see. I'm going to use it in the terms, and I'm going to just tell you exactly how I break it down.
All right.
So it is the underdevelopment or absence of the uterus and the vaginal opening.
Okay.
So basically, the uterus is absent or is underdeveloped, and in a sense, your vaginal canal is underdeveloped or absent as well.
Okay.
I was diagnosed with it when I was 14 going on 15.
Okay.
And it's just been a journey since. Of course, emotionally, finding out at age 15 that, you know, I can't have kids, and just about the infertility, you know, going down the road, and I'm gonna have fertility issues, and just I think that when I was first diagnosed, it didn't really hit me.
Okay.
I was kind of young.
What age were you?
And it was 14 going on 15, 14 or 15.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say 15.
I got you.
So, you know, I'm still in high school, living my best life out here, you know.
Getting into boys
I
and
get
whatnot.
diagnosed with this. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. I thought you were saying something.
No. You good.
So, yeah, like I said, after I was diagnosed, it didn't really hit me until I pretty much got a little bit older. And that's when I just realized that, you know, this was life-changing. And it kind of put me in a, I want to say, sunken state of mind.
Okay.
To the point where I kind of put it out of my mind.
So you blocked it out.
I basically, I didn't want to think about it. I just pushed it so far out of my mind and out of my life until I had to deal with it, until it actually came up and I just had to deal with it.
Okay. So my question is, okay, now you said MRKH is either the underdevelopment of ovaries and vagina or the non-existence of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that apply to you? Which one is it? Is it underdeveloped or non-existent?
Non-existent.
Non-existent, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you actually, what prompted you actually being diagnosed in the story leading up to that?
So when I was around 15 years old, I realized that I didn't have my cycle yet.
Okay.
And, you know, that's pretty old for a girl not to have her cycle, for most women not to get their cycle. So went to the doctor, and that's when I was actually diagnosed at 2 different times. So that's when I found out that I didn't have a uterus. And with that being found out, that's when I was told that, you know, I would never be able to bear my own children, and I would never get a cycle, and just pretty much, yeah. So
and what
that
age?
was that.
And what age was this when you found out that?
15.
15. Okay. And how did that hit you? Was it hard, or was it just like, yeah?
Like I said at the time, it didn't really like resonate with me, because I was just like, all right. And
Gotcha.
I was telling myself even before then, because, you know, you're young. When you're young, you don't really care for kids like that. It's just like, you know, like I said, I was out here trying to live my best life. So I was just like, I don't want kids anyway, so that's fine. You know?
Yeah.
And then I did want to, for some crazy reason at the time, I did want to cycle. I mean, all my friends were getting their cycle, and I was like, you know, that's what prompted me to go to the doctor. I was like, why am I not getting my cycle? What's wrong with me, you know?
Yeah.
So at that time, I did want that because I felt like that was normal. So I was actually more hurt about not getting a cycle than not being able to bear my own child. So,
It's
the
crazy.
paradox of it all.
It's crazy because I can think of so many women that say they hate their cycle and they wish they don't have it. And but,
Yeah, and here I am wanting one. You know?
Yeah.
So after that, I want to say like a year or so later, I tried to engage in sexual intercourse, and that's when I realized that that went terribly wrong. So then I went back to the doctor, and that's when I got diagnosed fully with MRKH, and that's when I found out about the non-existent vaginal canal.
So when you say it went terribly wrong, what do you mean? Like it was just because you
it
said
couldn't happen.
Okay, because this is still new to me, and I'm trying to like picture it in my head. So when you say the non-existence of the vaginal canal, right? Does that mean it's like just nothing there?
So it is. It's basically the absence of my vaginal, like the actual canal. So for some women, and that's just me, like I said, it can be underdeveloped or it can be absent.
Gotcha.
So for some women, they actually do have a small canal. They would just have to basically dilate and stretch it or make it longer with length or wider.
Okay. Okay.
So for me, I can still I have tried to dilate. So I would be able to do that, but that didn't work for me. So it's like past the point of that, I would actually have to have surgery.
Okay.
To create a vaginal canal.
Okay. So it was just basically just like no hole and no penetration.
No.
Okay. And was it easy for the doctors to get diagnosed? Because with the small research that I've done, it says it's very, very underdiagnosed. So was it like
It is underdiagnosed. No, actually, the doctor that I first went to had to actually send me to a specialist. She didn't know what it was, and even though I went to the specialist, it took a minute for him to figure out what it was. And just speaking with other women as well, a lot of women were misdiagnosed, or a lot of women had to go through several different physicians just to figure out what it was that they actually, had.
Okay. And this is 15 when you figured this out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was like 10 years ago, and it's still the same cycle. It's a lot of physicians that don't even know about it. Every time I go to the doctor, I get asked, what is that?
Oh, so you become the teacher.
So it's like exactly. It's like a reminder that, geez, this isn't normal, or, they don't know what it is. Like every single time I go to the doctor, unless it's for what I'm going for and the physician already is expecting it, and no one knows what it is.
So you have like a special OBGYN who like?
I do.
Okay.
I do. But now that I'm really going more in depth with it, and I'm actually having my procedure in November. Well, it's November, later in the month.
Later in this month?
New.
And the procedure is to do what?
Create my vaginal canal.
So they finna open it up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ooh, how you feel about that?
I'm excited. I'm a little excited. I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it. It's something new. We were just speaking on getting out of our comfort zone. That's definitely one for me. And like I said, I found out when I was 15. 10 years later, it's still something I'm struggling with, but I finally found the courage to just do it.
Okay.
Just get it done.
Okay. Let's speak about how'd you feel after you were diagnosed, right? And then because you just now started to speak about this, right? And this was, you said you was 15, so it was like what, 10 years ago? Right? So go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say, within the midst of like that 10 years, what was it like for you? Was there like some identity stuff going on? Am I a woman? How do I define myself as a woman? Things like that, because you can't have children and you can't have sex. So what am I? That's what I would think of. That's like some of the first things that popped up in my head.
Well, yeah, that would definitely hit my mind. And I just want to, kind of correct you on that a little bit. I can have children. I can't bear children. So I still have ovaries and I still have eggs. I just wouldn't be able to carry my own child. A lot of women actually.
I don't get the difference.
They can't. You don't get the difference?
Nah.
Okay, so with having ovaries and eggs, I can get that actually taken out of my body and then transferred with sperm from, whoever I choose to have children with. And then I can have someone carry a Therian, and it'll still have my genes, my identity, everything. It's just I wouldn't be carrying the baby.
Okay, that makes sense. I never looked at it like that because I never have to, but got it.
Yeah. And actually, like, technology is advancing so much from the time that I got diagnosed. Now it's so many things going on, like uterus transplants. So if I was to choose to have a uterus transplant, I could actually carry my own child.
A uterus transplant?
So with that, I would actually be able to obtain a uterus inside my body, and then I would be able to carry my own child.
Are you at that place to where you're even thinking about that? Or are you just like worried about the vaginal canal right now?
I don't want kids right now. I don't even know if I want kids in the future. That's also something I'm dealing with too, just seeing if that's really something I want, or is that something that I desire because I know I can't have it.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but I have considered that, but that's a long journey. That's a more down the road.
Yeah, that's not really important, right? It's not
that's not my main focus right now.
Got you. But going back to the initial question, the things you've been through within that 10 years, right? How did that, psychologically or mentally affect you, and everything?
Well, when I first found out, like I said, I didn't really care too much, but it did start hitting home when I think I was in my senior year of high school. That's when it just really started resonating with me, like, okay, this is something that it's hard. I think that having not knowing that I didn't have a uterus, I was okay with that. But then when I found out that I couldn't have sex, that's when it was really like, okay, my life, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell am I finna do? So that's when it really just started, like, getting hard for me. And that was my senior year. But when I went to college, I kind of just put it in the back of my mind. And I don't want to say that I wasn't depressed yet. I have been through a depression stage, but yet that wasn't where I was at. I was just more so like, I'm going to forget about this, Like, I'm not even going to think about it. And it's so funny because I blocked it out so much that I even forgot I told people. That's just how far out of my mind it went.
Yeah.
Recently, I just told one of my cousins about it, and I didn't think she knew. And she's like, you told me this when you first got diagnosed. And I was like, whoa, I forgot that I had told her. That's how far I was. It was just like out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, and we all do that. Like, we all, and I've spoken about it before on this show, even with myself, about how when I was 17, I attempted suicide, and I blocked that out so much to where, like, I even forgot about it. So I completely understand about why you would even block it out, because it was just, there probably was like some shame and guilt behind it.
Yeah, it was. And I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. It was like you were saying, I was questioning, am I even a woman? I got to the point where it went so far, I even got, like, chromosome testing. I needed to know. I was, like, lost in identity. It was like an identity crisis for me. But going out of high school, I just blocked it out, and I went to college. And honestly, I didn't think about it for the first 2 years of college. It's just like I didn't even think about it. And I really want to credit that to, shout out to my awesome friends, because in school it was just like I met an amazing group of people, It was just like, and they kind of took my mind off of it. It was something I needed. It was a refresher. And, the first 2 years of college, it's just like, because, we went to CAU. It's just straight turn up. It's like, nonstop. And it's like you can't really think about anything but school and turn up. And that was just, to me, that was the refreshment I needed,
Yeah.
It's like I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to dwell on it. I was just like, let me just enjoy being young.
Okay.
So I did that for the first 2 years, blocked that out. And then that's when it just really started hitting home, when it was like I had to settle down a little bit, buckle down, partying stopped. Friends are getting serious in relationships, and I'm still over here single for them not knowing why I'm single, but I know. And yeah, I had to really just sit down and think about it. And when that happened, that's when I went into my depression.
And what was that like?
And just isolation. I didn't want to be around anyone. I didn't. And at the time, one of me and one of our good friends, me and Willis good friends, that's when we were staying with each other.
This was during that time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know. I know. And you were always around, too. That's what I'm saying. But you wouldn't, like you said, I was always smiling. You wouldn't know. And I also wanted to say, too, because at the beginning of the show, you were saying, like, you just wish you would have asked me or, just been there for me. But Willis, honestly, you couldn't have been there for me because I wouldn't have told you. I wasn't honest about it then. There's nothing you could have gotten me to say about it then because I was in that place.
True.
So it's just all in timing.
Mm-hmm.
But I went into isolation. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. Didn't really want to talk to anyone. I was kind of forced to because I had a roommate, so people were coming over.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like a blessing from God because honestly, had I not had a roommate, you all probably wouldn't even see me.
Yeah.
It was just like I was forced to be out, be in public, or talk to someone because she was there. And I don't even think, shout out to her, because I don't even think that she realized that, she helped me out of some dark moments.
So did she know this was going on?
No, and that's what I'm
shit.
saying. Like, no one knew. Up until this year, no one but my mom and my grandmother knew. And my cousin, who I didn't even realize I told. Those are the only 3 people in my life that I let know for 10 years.
Damn. That's crazy.
And I've had roommates. I've had, no one knew.
Shit. Okay, so, yeah, and the only reason why this is kind of I guess, real for me is because in my head, I'm thinking
You
back.
know me.
Yeah. So I'm thinking back towards specific times to where it's like, she was really going through this, and it looked all cool and it looked all straight. Everything was fine, even with the friend. Like, in her mind, everything was all good, too. I don't know if she picked up anything as well, but I definitely did not. And it's crazy how much we block things out in our life so we could possibly, I guess, just be cool. Because like you said, the first 2 years of school, we was just turning up, and I was turning up with you.
Right.
So, I completely understand what it was like. But that junior and senior year, when people start settling down, getting ready for graduation, getting more into their schoolwork, it's like, all right, my homegirl going on this date, my homegirl going on that date, and I'm just chilling, So I completely understand. I want to take a step into the comments real quick, and I think there's somebody that actually has a question for you in here. It says,
okay, go ahead.
Did you date? If so, how were your partners feeling about not being able to have sex?
So I did date. I dated a couple guys while I was in college. I dated some people while I was in high school after I found out. But I honestly, so the sex part wasn't really a big factor. I think that, of course, all dudes want sex. Not all dudes want sex, but that's something that, is valuable in a relationship, especially if, you're not upfront with it. So I dated. But I got distant a little bit because I wasn't ready to share that part of myself. And I think that by me getting distant or by me ghosting or, kind of shutting down a couple of things, like we'll go out probably 3 times and that's when I know, oh shit, like it's time for the Netflix and chill session. I'm not ready for that, so let me just cut him off or, So I think that is when it kind of got rough for me and I just stopped dating. I was just like, there's no point of leading people on or just going into different situations because it won't get anywhere. But that was just me. Now I know that was just me shutting down opportunities and shutting out people because who knows where it could have got had I just been honest.
Okay.
If I would have just been truthful with them. Because, I don't know if they would have been okay with it, helped me through it. You just never know. I didn't give them the opportunity.
Yeah. And then also you wasn't even in the right place at the time. Right? Because
exactly.
you're in a totally different place now to where you're actually able to speak about it. But back then, and even sometimes we feel bad that we weren't able to speak about it, but we don't take a step back and just realize, like, mentally I just wasn't there. Mentally I just was not.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I just wasn't ready. So
that's true. If you would have asked me this a year ago, and I couldn't even say MRKH fully without even crying. Like, that's what state of mind I was in.
So what?
And I didn't want to cry all the time, so I just didn't talk about it.
So what prompted you to actually start to think about putting it out there now? Because I know you thought about it, but you probably been thinking about it for a while, and then you took the step. So what was?
I don't know. And Willis, I honestly, like, I knew you were going to ask me that question, so I really been trying all day to think of an answer. But if I was to generate one, it wouldn't be truthful. I literally just woke up one morning and was just like, this is not how I want. Because, okay, so after school, after college, because, you know, you're not at fast pace anymore. It's just like you really got to sit down, think about it. If these jobs not rolling in, you got a lot of idle time.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like idle time is the devil's playpen.
Definitely.
It's just like, that's when stuff really start hitting you and you start thinking about things. And honestly, after school, that's when I went into my deep, deep, deep depression, especially since I didn't have to see anyone anymore. It was bad. And
that's crazy.
It's just like one morning I just woke up.
That's the reason why I say that's crazy, because once we all graduated, I always used to ask that friend where the hell you was at. And she'd never, she's back at home doing this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, where the hell she was at? It even got to a point to where, like, I thought you and her actually fell off because you were so, like, MIA, you know. So it's crazy that it just got 30.
But yeah, see, that's the thing. Now that I'm telling everybody, and they're like, yo, I did realize you were gone for like almost a year and a half. Like, no one heard from me. I didn't talk to anyone. I was just to myself. I literally didn't text anyone back, didn't call anyone back. I didn't make any more trips back to homecoming. I needed that minute. And it forced me to really just find myself, start loving on myself, self-care. And honestly, one day I just woke up and I was like, this is not for me. This is not the life I want to live. I don't want to live in secrecy. And in order for me to truly be myself, I have to put it out there. I have to. And I made my first, so I have a YouTube channel about my condition, and I made my first video. And, you know, I just started sharing it here and there, and I was getting responses that I wasn't even expecting. I think the biggest thing for me was I was afraid to tell someone because I was afraid of judgment, rejection, and just, I didn't know what my peers were going to say. I didn't know what. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I was literally, before this show, just having this type of conversation with a friend of mine, telling her about how sometimes we just have to just do it, right? We just have to go ahead and just do it and deal with everything as they come, whether it
comes with it. Yeah.
Deal with everything as it comes, whether it's the negative or the positive. And then a lot of times, especially when you go out there and do it, we sit back and realize, like, yo, it wasn't really that bad after all.
Exactly. Like, in doing that, I just realized, like, I could have did this 10 years ago. My life would have probably been completely different. I wouldn't have had to live the way I did. It's just been, it's so, like, refreshing now, but I can see how that could have really, like, helped me back then. And, yeah.
So, I want to, someone else actually asked another question. They said, are you dating now? And if so, do you, and this was actually a question I also was going to ask myself, you know, when you date someone, I don't know if you're dating now, but when you date, do you feel the need to tell that person?
I am not dating. I am currently talking to someone. I feel like there's a difference. We haven't really gotten to the dating stage. And this is funny because since I've decided to come forth with this information and share my YouTube videos and everything, now I'm kind of thinking to myself, geez, because now I just want to be truthful. I want to be upfront. Yeah. So now I'm just saying to myself, geez, when do I put this, like, information? When do I tell them? And that's something else I'm struggling with now, because now that I'm so upfront, I don't feel like it's something I should just tell you as soon as we meet, like shake hands and then, hey, I have MRKH, or, you know.
Yeah, that's clearly going to make them run away. I don't know
exactly when to do it.
Yeah, and it's always, I could say for me, and if you agree, please let me know, but I know for me, the first time I actually said something about my attempted suicide back when I was 17, I had made a post on Instagram. And that was way easier than actually sitting down and telling somebody face to face, because
Right.
it was like, I don't have to deal with your reactions at the moment. I could, shut off it. I don't have to read the feedback or whatever the case may be. And I would expect it would be much harder for you to even sit down and actually like, hey, this is what it is. But one of the things that I've understood is that, and I firmly believe to this day, is when there's somebody that's supposed to be in your life, they're going to be in your life regardless, right?
Exactly.
So if we come out and tell that person like, hey, I have MRKH, this is that. If that person is really not, if that person is willing to go back, do the research, support you, and be there through your journey, then that person is actually supposed to be in our life at that time. If we tell that person and that person decides to walk away, you weren't good for me anyway. So peace. Like,
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm working with right now, but it's just, it takes you a minute to get that type of resilience to where you can say, well, I don't care, leave, you know what I'm saying, or peace, because, that first rejection is always everything, and I haven't gotten that yet.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to be in that mind state of where I can receive that to a point where it doesn't put me back to the state of mind where I was a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure.
But I
that's
don't want that to dictate my life and my relationships and just how I maneuver. I still want to be able to, date and be in a relationship, but I want to be truthful now.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, it's just a process. It's hard, but this is the first person who I'm talking to, and we're going to try it out. They're actually tuning into the show, so.
Oh, well, shout out to you.
So, hey, it's definitely a conversation that we're going to have.
My next question for you is this. We spoke about briefly spoke about how the definition of, womanhood, right? How have you been able to define yourself as a woman, with this and going through this and things like that?
Right. I got, it's to the point now where I don't feel like I have to define myself as a woman. That's what's one of the things that really stressed me out. I was doing things trying to prove that I was a woman. Even when I was in high school and I found out I wanted to be on the cheerleading team, I had to make it because girls are on the cheerleading team. But in college, I wanted to do this, and it's just I felt like I had to prove it. But I was born a woman. There's nothing to prove. I am a woman. So it kind of got to the point where, now I'm just like, hey, that I just am a woman. I don't have to prove it. I don't have to identify with it. That's just something that is known. And it took me a minute to realize it. But now, it's just, like I said, self-love. I just learned to love me. And I don't have to prove it to anyone. If I feel like I'm woman enough, then that is what it is.
Yeah. And then one of the things I also want to touch on is you spoke about how you can't really say, like, what led you to actually, opening up. It was kind of just like, yo, I'm not going to live in this anymore. One of the things that's very important is that we always sit back and tell ourselves, okay, I'm going to do this when I'm ready. I'm going to do this when I feel the time is right. I'm gonna open up when I feel like I'm able to handle it. And if we keep telling ourselves that, sometimes that day might not ever come. And then how do we know when we're going to be ready? Like, we're not going to know when we're ready unless we actually put ourselves out there. So the simple fact that you actually, whatever happened, that morning, whatever was the epiphany or whatever that caused you to be like, yo, I'm not doing this anymore. Sometimes when we get to that place, we have to just accept the fact that, one, we're there, and just go all out, like, with everything in life. Because, like I said earlier, it's we're going to realize it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. It's not.
It's not. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm realizing now. Like I said, I could have been did this, but of course it was in my timing, because I just felt like I would be, first of all, I felt like I would be viewed as weak. A lot of times when we wear our emotions on our sleeves, people view others as weak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be crying to everybody and putting my problems or what I felt was a burden on other people. That's one of the reasons why I didn't speak up about it. So I kind of just was like, I'm just going to stay to myself with it. And I didn't want people to see me as less of a woman. And I've actually seen this a little bit since I've been out. A lot of people redirect conversations around me, if that makes sense. Like friends that used to talk about, you know, wanting kids or starting families. Now that they know I can't have kids, they don't talk about it no more.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't want it to be that way, but I'm sensing it. But it's nothing I can do about that. You know what I'm saying? I'm comfortable with it now, but if you aren't comfortable around me with it, then that's something that you have to work with.
And I don't even think it's them not being comfortable around you with it. I think it's more so them trying to be mindful of not hurting your feelings, even though you're telling them that, you know, I'm at a certain place where I'm okay and I can have conversations like this. It's still that thought in my head, like, okay, should I have this? Should I ask that? Because like even with me preparing for this,
it's new.
Yeah, it's brand new. And then I was asking myself, should I ask her certain questions? What questions shouldn't I ask? And this and that. Because we always want to make sure we tread lightly when it comes to something that's heavy for the other person. So I wouldn't even say they're uncomfortable with it, but I just think they're trying to be mindful of where you're at. When sometimes even with themselves, they might just need to just ask. Just go ahead and ask certain things or continue certain conversations. So, but with
I'm definitely it's definitely getting to the point where, you know, I'm getting more comfortable. Like when I was in my depression, in my isolation, I really didn't even want to go out the house just because of what I feel like I may have encountered. Like I didn't want to see anybody, a pregnant woman. I didn't want to see that. So you know, you see those like a pregnant woman now everywhere, the grocery store, school, everywhere. So I just tried to stay clear of going outside because to me that was kind of, at the time, one of my triggers. I just didn't want to go out, period. It was just like, and I didn't want to seek therapy.
You don't want to seek therapy for it?
No, I didn't. Now I'm at that stage. Now I realize that therapy is important.
Okay.
And that's just not how, I don't want to say that's not how I was raised, but I never knew anyone who went to therapy. Anyone who I had heard who went to therapy was crazy. And that's just kind of how I viewed it. It was just ignorance, really. But now that I'm at a stage, I know how important it is, and I'm actually looking for a therapist at the moment.
Okay, how's that going for you?
I encountered one, wasn't so good. So, you know, like I said, that first encounter kind of sets you back a little bit. But it's going to get easier. And like I said, you just got to find the right one. I think it was one of your shows you said, just like medication, you got to find the right therapist, or it might have been vice versa. It's the same thing, yeah.
Man, and I'm actually very, very glad you brought that up because I literally had this same exact conversation with that same friend early on. It's ironic, but, you know, like you just said, with the medications, we have to find the right one. And when it comes to therapy, finding a therapist is extremely hard because finding that right therapist is like, it's like a relationship, so to say. You know, I'm telling you everything, and you're going to keep everything to yourself. It's very hard for a lot of individuals. So when we reach out and then we actually go do it and find a therapist, and that therapist is trash, it's like, okay, I'm not going. That's all therapy now. I'm not finna go try it at all. But we have to consciously make that effort over and over and over again to seek the therapy, even though we know we may need it, you know, and you may not actually need the therapy at the time, but therapy can be very therapeutic because it gives you that outlet that you may need, you know. And then I also say if you're not able to find your therapy, do something that's therapeutic. Do something that's therapeutic.
That is very true.
You know, so I personally don't go to therapy. And I even spoke about it in the last episode that even within myself, it's hard for me to go to therapy because I'm stuck in the mindset of why does a therapist need to see a therapist? And even with what I spoke about earlier in today, I need to start to, you know, take my own advice and go see a therapist. But even though I don't see therapy,
that's like saying, why does a doctor need to go to the doctor?
Exactly. But even though I don't see a therapist, I do a lot of things that are very therapeutic. I work out, I eat right, I meditate, I do everything that I can possibly do to stay peaceful, stay at peace. You know, so even with ourselves, because we may not be ready, but how do we know if we're ready unless we actually go try?
That's true, because I would have never took this step, and had I not taken this step, I wouldn't be living the life I am now. And that's just a happy life. I'm so much happier. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I wake up and actually want to get out of bed, and that's like a major accomplishment compared to where I was like a year ago.
That's a very, very huge step, man. So I'm going back, looking in the comments. My man Gomez said you got to find out who your listener friend is. Listener friend.
Don't be nosy, Gomez.
I'm not going to say comment, but you should say hey. But but no, yeah, you know, I thoroughly appreciate you for actually, because you don't have to be on here speaking about it, but I thoroughly appreciate you for actually even going as far as making that YouTube video. Like, that was the first step for you, and I know for a fact that probably helped out a lot of people, but it was way more helpful and beneficial for you. Way more beneficial for you. So I am thoroughly glad that you were able to do that.
It's one of the therapeutic methods for me. Like you said, you have to find something that works for you. Instead of going out, I couldn't find a therapist, so instead of going out and talking to someone, I just spoke to myself, and I actually just recorded it. And that's really just how much the channel got started.
Yeah, you just got to go. We just got to go. So,
and I just want to encourage everyone to go, because, like I said, you just never know the outcome until you do it. And it's like, I would hate for it to be a bad outcome, but taking that leap, you just never know. Because I just wanted to like dispel some of the myths as far as like just being aware. Like, sometimes you just get an awesome response, and like the responses that I got from just opening up, it just really made me feel loved and supported. So much love that I didn't even know I was surrounded by.
Yeah.
So
definitely,
I would just say, just take the step, take the risk.
Definitely. I know for a fact that it answered a lot of my own personal questions when I asked where the hell you was at, because you were just MIA. But
yeah,
like I
and
said,
even going back though, Willis, I thought about when, like, in the beginning, you asked me have we ever really had like a personal conversation. I don't know if you recall, but I don't know if it was a weekend you were staying with us when me and our friend had the apartment.
Yeah.
But we did a little book game. You remember that?
We did what?
Like the little question game. It was like a book with questions, and we asked each other questions. Anyways, that was when I really like tapped into you and learned so much about you that I didn't even know that you were carrying. And it was just, it's crazy that you don't remember it, because that's something that I would never forget about you. But that really just stuck with me and resonated with me, because it was just like you had the courage to speak out about everything that you went through and everything you've encountered. And that's when I was kind of going through my own personal like spell. And I just was like, geez, if I just had Willis's courage. That's just something that always will make me think of you, honestly.
And I don't remember that, but thank you. Thank you. Yeah. But it's important to understand, like, even in that moment, with me saying what I was saying at that time, I didn't know what I was saying gonna resonate with you. Sometimes we just have to put certain things out in that atmosphere, and it's going to touch who it's supposed to touch. Like, I didn't know what I was saying was going to touch you, but it touched you, you know. And you say,
it's something I would never forget.
Exactly. You say you wish you had Willis's courage, but I think that I got and we both have to understand that I am older than you, so I had it. It took me a while to get to this courage. We're going to get that courage. I got my courage when I was supposed to get my courage. And it took a lot for me to actually get to that place. So you got to this place where you're at, not when you wanted to, but when it was supposed to happen. You know, I firmly believe things are going to happen when they're supposed to happen, not really when we want to. And for you, in order to get this courage that you do have, it is by far extremely powerful. Because just me thinking about it, right? If I'm a man, and just to switch it, if men had a similar, thing like this, and my penis was like non-existent or underdeveloped, I would never, ever in life, like, say anything about it. Like, if I couldn't produce any sperm, like I would never ever speak about it in life, because I would start to feel like, yo, I'm not equal. I'm not the same as a lot of my peers. I'm just different.
Yeah, I went through those feelings.
Yeah, but
especially when I couldn't find anyone who was going through the same thing as me. It took me almost 8 years to even. I just recently, the past weekend, for the first time, I'm 25 years old. I got diagnosed at 15. For the first time out of those 10 years, met other women with the same condition, like actually face to face. We were in the same room for the first time in 10 years. I always felt like I was by myself.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I want to take away with this is exactly what you just said. We're not really alone like we think we are. There's always somebody right there. There's always somebody right there. There's always somebody that may be able to say something that is going to touch you. And you should always be able to be at peace with your story, so you can be able to say it, because you do not know who your story is going to touch. And just
and it may not even be the same situation. My story may not be your story. Like when you were telling your story, Willis, I had never been through any of that. I had never experienced any of that. But it stuck with me, and it will always stick with me. Just your bravery and your courage of speaking on it the way you did. And that just, honestly, I'm just like, wow.
Like I said, if I was white, I'd be red as hell right now. But
I need you to get a new quote, okay?
But like I was saying, man, thank you for just speaking about it, just being open about it, because it's a lot of women who are in, a lot of people in general who are in places to where they don't feel comfortable opening up. And the stories, that's why I firmly believe in stories. That's why I want this actual platform to be a place to where people can open up about their stories, whether it's big, whether it's deep or not, because there's a lot of people who may believe like, yo, my story ain't shit compared to the next person's story. And we're not out here in the business of trying to weigh people's story, like whose story's worse, but it's more so about you being at peace and owning your story and understand your story makes you. You know, you could
very true.
You have the ability to be a strong person, a very resilient person, or you could allow that story to beat you up and control you. Pick one. So, and you chose to stand on
how you choose to handle it,
and you chose to stand on top of it. So,
good job. A couple of steps, but I'm at the top now.
Hey, we get there when we're supposed to get there, not when we want to, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raven.
Thank you, Willis, for having me.
Thanks.
I want to shameless plug, but can I shout out my YouTube channel?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you want any more information on MRKH or just infertility in itself, just follow my YouTube channel. It is Kia Ray, My MRKH Journey. And I also want to shout out my sis who also has MRKH, Janae Cook. She just started the first African-American group for MRKH.
Okay.
It's a Facebook group called Sisters Surviving Infertility, MRKH Awareness. And that's really major because I know that a lot of people, when they're going through something, they want to see themselves, you know? And there wasn't an African-American group. And I'm not going to lie, when I first looked it up, that was the first thing I looked for, and I couldn't find it. So just shout out to her for even taking the courage and the step to do that. Yeah. And like I said, if you want to know any more about MRKH or just my condition, the condition in general, just hit me up.
Yeah.
And thank you, Willis, for having me on.
Yeah, and I also want to, because I know they're listening, and I know, like, not all of them, but the real friends, your friends at Clark, I also want to really thank them, because even though they didn't know it, you know, they were always there with you. It's important that us just being friends, you know, people who are listening, people in general, please make sure you're a good friend. Please make sure you're very supportive, because we don't know what battle our friend is actually facing. And if we go ahead and decide to be some terrible ass friend, that's going to make their battle that much worse. That can make
make sure you check on your strong friends, because in my circle, I am coincidentally, I'm the strong friend in my circle. And when I told everyone this, they were just like, what? Because no one ever knew. And it was something I was dealing with heavy. But so just make sure you check on the people who you feel like you don't need to check on, because you never know. Check on everyone, but definitely check on them, because you never know.
Exactly. Thank you, Raven.
Thank you so much, Willis. And I do see ICAE fam in the comments. Love it.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks again, Willis.
All right. Peace. Bye. So, like I stated earlier in here, even though this topic was not primarily on a mental disorder, specific mental illness or whatever, it's thoroughly important that we understand how everything is connected. How we may not ever think about suicide ever in our life, but if certain things happen, we may get to that place of where we may want to, take our life. We may get to that depressed place. We may get to that place to where we're trying to find the solution in some form of substance, alcohol, cocaine, weed, whatever. We hide it. We block it out. Just as Raven spoke about, we block things out. What are you blocking out? How are you blocking it out? Is it healthy for you to block that out? Because a lot of the things that we block out, at some point, they're going to come out eventually. They just are. So in wrapping everything up, some of the takeaways I want to make sure we all get from it is one, this whole aspect of blocking things out. Sometimes we just have to ask ourselves, what are we blocking out? How are we blocking it out? What are we blocking it out for? What are we blocking out for? Another takeaway I want to get from it is that sometimes we have to understand that we're going to get through things when we're supposed to. A lot of times we want to put a fast forward on our healing process, right? We want to be able to get over things now. And like I say, and I'm going to say this all the time, I'm a firm believer that things are supposed to happen. Things are going to happen when they're supposed to happen, not when you want them to happen. And in the way that they happen, you may not be ready for the way that it happens, but it happens. And when it does happen, and when it is time for you to take that leap, you just have to take that leap, because it's not that bad at the end of the day. So one of the question that I want to make sure that we leave you guys with is, when will you be ready? Right? The reason why I asked that is because within the conversation we spoke a lot about this concept of being ready, and when will we be ready? When will you be ready with opening up with whatever you feel as if you need to open up with? You may not even have anything to open up to, but it doesn't have to be only just something that you have going on in your life. When will you be ready to do whatever? When will you be ready to start that business? When will you be ready to ask that person on a date? When will you be ready to quit that job that you hate? When will you be ready to apply for a new job? When will you be ready to go to school? When will you be ready for anything? If you keep telling yourself, I'm going to wait until I'm ready, you're going to wait forever. Period. You're going to be waiting your whole life. Sometimes we just have to just go and deal with everything when they come. Period. Deal with everything when they come. We're going to realize that it's not that bad. It's all about the process and growing with the process. Everything in life is a journey. I spoke about this within my first episode about how me sitting on here doing this radio is literally something that I've never thought about ever in life. Up until a few months ago, until I was blessed with the opportunity. And then I put it off a few times because it was like, well, I'm gonna wait till I'm ready. I'm not really ready. I don't have the experience and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. When in reality, you just have to go and deal with it, because it's not that bad. Me being here, actually doing this, is not that bad. It's actually very, very good. And I'm telling you, if you were to not do something because you're waiting if you're ready, and then that thing is going to pass you by, you're going to be like, damn, I should have went and did that. We don't realize how much we stunt our growth. We don't realize how much we block our blessings. We don't realize how much we cause harm to ourselves by sitting there and telling ourselves, I'm going to do this when I'm ready. So with all of that being said, man, Gomez, thank you for tuning in. Lexus, thank you for tuning in. Keith, thank you for tuning in. Erica, thank you for tuning in. Everybody that is tuned in and that is listening, thank you. Everybody that has caught in the middle of it, thank you. Everybody that will be catching on later on in life, because you will catch on at some point, thank you. And as always, there is no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed and take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.